I don't know whether it's the fact that I've been waiting so long to get my Mezco Ninja Turtles to the point that I think I may never get them, or it's the fact that I had 3 breakages last month, which made me want to tear my eyes out. But I've slowly found myself crawling back to Hasbro. So let's start with the first figure that's tempted me back. Although I grew up more with Transformers Prime and the Bayverse movies, the one toy I remember owning more than anything else, apart from the Optimus Prime that sits at the bottom of my cupboard, is the Transformers animated Bumblebee. So we all know a big part of this review is going to be nostalgia. The first thing you're going to notice with this Bumblebee is that he is very small.
Try having fun. No problem.
Wow, I just disappeared.
This is balanced out though with the materials that the figure's made out of. He feels really durable, really sturdy, really premium. And the overall look of him is just perfect. The yellow is really well color matched to the color of the plastic, and the black lines over the figure are really well painted. It's very minimal paint, and I really like that because it allows me to play with the figure, transform him, do whatever I want without the fear of paint chipping. But that's not my favorite thing about this figure. It is its articulation. He has some of the best range on the head I've ever seen, which is only a bit limited by his ginormous chin. The shoulders are probably the weirdest part of this figure. They don't get much good range out, and the arms might at first seem like they are only single jointed, but you can actually use a secondary joint in the shoulder to get his arms all the way up, which I adore. His waist rotation is completely unimpeded, and I know Transformers fans absolutely hate it when I even suggest that you transform your figure in order to get a bit of extra articulation. But if you untab his chest, you actually get a full ab crunch, which is very rare for figures, especially of this size. His leg articulation going up is pretty average. He has a single joint in the knee, but you do get a really good bend out of that. And the ankle articulation is really difficult to activate, but once you do, it gives you a pretty good range. Bumblebee's 4 accessories are kind of lackluster. You get these 2 transparent rockets. I have no idea why they're transparent. And 2 bits which you can use as afterburners, which is really cool looking. And you can attach these to the side of his leg and make it look like he's about to do like a rocket-powered kick, which I love. You can also remove those afterburner effects, attach them together in the middle, rotate his hands out, and then use it as this kind of unibeam effect. It has a name in the show. I can't remember what it was. Due to his size, you could probably guess that his transformation is going to be quite simple, but it's actually very fun. I definitely prefer going from robot to vehicle just for the sake of flipping out those knee pads, and those heel spurs just isn't the best experience for me. And at the end of it, you get a really cute looking car. Unfortunately, there's a few peg holes and hinges that kind of break up that aesthetic of it, but I still think it looks really nice. The black stripe going down the top, unfortunately, isn't perfectly aligned, so you can kind of see that it skews to the right as you move down the car. But I really like the red light, and for once, I'm actually a fan of clear plastic on this figure. Even though you can't see anything, I still think it just looks really nice. Overall, you're just left with a really nice looking figure that poses well and matches up quite nicely with other figures from the line. Bumblebee's going to get an 8 for his looks. I think it's practically perfect, except that chin is just a little bit too big. For accessories, he's getting a 1. I don't think I need to explain myself there. For articulation, I'm going to give him a 6. It's good for a Transformer, but that doesn't really stack up well against a regular figure. Overall, I'm going to give Bumblebee a 6. But how about we stick with sci-fi and move on to... Normally, I'd rather throw everything I own into a burning bonfire before buying a Black Series figure. But this one's just so pretty. Out of the 3 figures that I'm reviewing today, this one looks the best. Proportionally, visually, he is perfect. The light shines beautifully off of his metallic surfaces. All the necessary details are painted up really nicely, and the fabric cape adds a lot to this figure. For articulation, Mando has a double ball joint, which is the best articulation setup you can have for a head, allowing for a wide variety of expressive motion. His arms can go up really far, his legs go up about average, but unfortunately both his knees and his elbows are single jointed. That seems to be something that all the Black Series does. But just be aware, when you pose his arms up, even to like 90 degrees and you leave them there for a millisecond, it's going to affect the way the shoulder pads look, and you're going to need to force them back down. Otherwise, he just looks so stupid. Understandably, his torso is very limited, but you can still get some pretty good movement out of it. It's not the best articulation I've had with the figure, but it does enough to do some really nice poses. But you'll be noticing that the visuals of this figure is what's carrying it. To start off with accessories, you have his gun, which holsters really nicely onto the figure and fits really well into his hand. And then you get a butter knife, which just doesn't slot into any of his hands. It does slot into his boot though, which is really cool. Then there's the Darksaber, which is relatively unpainted, but it still looks decent. But what's really cool is you can take out the blade and then attach the Darksaber to the back of Mando, and it just holsters onto him. Then there's the jetpack, which is painted in the same nice silver as the rest of the figure, which just slaps right onto the back of him. Unfortunately, I can't really get the cape to sit very nicely with it, especially when I'm posing, and it doesn't stick to the back perfectly flush, so there's that small gap at the back, which I'm assuming is probably for the bandolier, but it's just very distracting to me. I think all the accessories on this figure look great, even though you can't really hold the knife, but it's really cool that you can buckaroo him and just put absolutely everything on him at once. Mando is just such a beautiful looking figure, which is why for looks, I'm going to give him a 10. I think it's perfect. For accessories, he's going to get a 7. The volume of stuff is there, but stuff like the jetpack not kind of properly applying to his back and the knife not fitting in his hand definitely brings it down for me. For articulation, I'm going to give this guy a 2. It would be a 1 if not for the head. Overall, I'm going to give Mando a 7 out of 10. Now let's move on to the best figure here. Realistically, I should be so unimpressed by this Cyclops. There is very minimal paint on the figure. It's applied well in the belt area and the chest, but the heads are just not great. I did first of all had to repaint the visor so that it actually fills in the gap that they sculpted. But the sculpt itself for the head is very soft, very flat. And I know they're going for animation accuracy, but that just isn't there. And then all the accessories, including the hands and the laser effect, are just straight up reuse. His articulation is decent, but it's average for a Marvel legend. You know, double joints everywhere, butterfly joints, kicks up decently. I think this expert level posing kind of shows that all off. But I really wish they changed up their standard articulation setup with the necks, where it's got a ball and a disc. The double ball joint works so much better. They did it on their new Wasp figure that came out. The expression that you can get from that figure just through the neck joint is great. So now after making Cyclops want to do a leap of faith, let's take a step back and talk about why he's my favorite of the 3 that I've reviewed today. I've always really been into collecting, whether it's this picture of me at the age of 2 in a Thomas the Tank Engine magazine, or clips from my old YouTube channel where I'd show off Lego sets that I bought, or I'd make my own things. But whenever I really get into something and I start a new collection, everything else kind of dies off. And with figures, that was no different. So I started buying Marvel Legends. I got loads. And then I kind of introduced myself to Mafexes, Revoltex, Mezcos. And these companies made me feel like I had to choose between Marvel Legends or them. And I mean, we know which ones I picked, all for the sake of premium quality and more consistent sizing. But these 3 figures made me realize that not every character has to come with 17 different hands and every joint under the sun to be fun. Which is exactly what these figures have been. Fun. And I can't really say the same for the last couple Mafexes and Mezcos that I've gotten. And if you photograph these toys right, which you very much can easily do, they look just as high quality as any of the £100 imports. So overall, Cyclops is going to get a 10 out of 10. He's made me happy, and he's made me spend a lot less money on characters that I really like. I just want to say a quick thank you to Hannah for getting me the Mandalorian figure, and to all of you for watching all the way through. I tried to upgrade the quality of this video from the last ones, and I hope you can see that. Might not be the same for every single video I make, because this has taken me a while, but I'm really proud of this one. I just can't wait to do my Ninja Turtles video in about 10 years. Anyway, see ya.